What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Bronx Attorney Broadcast. I'm your host, Will Ferrero. Today we have with us Nick Gullo. Nick is the owner and founder of Monarch Jiu Jitsu, as well as a black belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. Welcome, Nick.
Thank you so much for having me on, Will. It's an absolute pleasure. I'm very excited.
So we know each other because I guess you could say we went to high school together because our high school was weird and it had eighth grade associated with it in the same building. So when I was in eighth grade, you were a senior and you were on the varsity wrestling team and you left right before I started my freshman year.
Yeah. Wheatley, super small. Some would say, some think it's a private school, being that it's so small. But those were like the good days of Wheatley, though, right? So I know before my years, when I was coming in around when I was like ninth grade, we had great squad, and then all the way up to where I think you guys had graduated even. You guys were doing okay still, and it seemed like that was the good times of Wheatley. And then, with Fitz and everything, and
Mhm.
yeah, those were fun. Those were
You know,
fun times.
I'm not sure if I ever told you this, but like you are part of one of my like first high school memories ever
Oh,
because we had in like the entryway of our school, we had this like seating area called the blocks, and everybody would kind of congregate there before school started and then on their lunch period, stuff like that. So we get to our first day of eighth grade, and I'm standing by the blocks there, waiting for school to start. Right, it's like stupid early, 7:30 in the morning, and there's the hallway right in front of the blocks there. You go running by, and then your brother goes running by, and chasing you is our wrestling coach Tom Fitzpatrick. And I'm like, what did these guys do to get in trouble on the first day of school at 7:30 in the morning to be chased by Coach Fitz?
oh man, that's so funny. Obviously, I have no idea what that could have been. Day one. I mean, fit like having Fitz as it was interesting to see like the progression, because like he went from like the gym teacher for us in like middle school very early on, and then he moved to the high school, so we got to have him when we were in middle school as a gym teacher, and then obviously wrestling coach in high school, and then him moving into like a role of you know because he was kind of just fun like back then when he was like the wrestling coach and like a health teacher, but now he was the attendance coordinator, right? And he was getting on all the guys for showing up late or cutting class or whatever it was. So having somebody like Fitz with such a chill personality, having to also come down on the guys that like he spends pretty like most of his time with as a in terms of the students, was very interesting. I know stories where he would go to kids' houses and have to pull them out of bed and get them, to go to school. Yeah, Fitz is the best. I don't know what that was about. I know they tore down the blocks though.
Yeah,
RIP.
RIP the
Yeah,
blocks.
fuck. But yeah,
And yeah, especially when it came to like the athletes, right? Like you're not supposed to skip school or call out sick for school and then show up to practice or a game or something like that. And I guess Fitz would have to go get people and force them to come to school so that they'd be eligible.
right. Yeah. Or anybody he really cared about. It didn't even have to be like that was what was so cool about Fitz. Like he just, if he knew you were at heart like a good kid, um, he tried, like he cared. And again, like I remember, I think it was Frank Kersner. He had like literally went to his house and his mom was there. She's like, I can't get him out of bed. And he like, literally went upstairs in his bed. I think he like ended up like punching him, like nothing crazy, but like get the
He's retired now, so we can
yeah,
share
yeah.
those
We can say,
stories.
we can say, yeah, he definitely punched him then. Like I know he punched him. Yeah, man, it was an
And
interesting time. Yeah, that wouldn't fly
and
anymore these days.
this was our varsity wrestling coach who you got to be coached for all 4 years by. and
Yeah.
I got 2 years of my freshman and sophomore year. Do you have a favorite Tom Fitzpatrick story?
Oh man, there's so many. I would say so funnily enough, it always has to do with his car. Famously, Fitz would like leave his keys in his car, right? So one day, and he also kind of would let us take it from time to time uh,
Hmm.
during the school day to go get lunch or whatever. And I'm not sure to this day. I really don't know if he let them take it or if we just knew the keys were in it.
Hmm.
But so Joel, Kevin, and Nico all went out during the day to go grab lunch or whatever. And apparently, no one knew where they were. It was all of a sudden, it's like, we're at soccer practice and we're like waiting for the three of them. No one knows. So we're just like, I don't know. No one's texting nobody. And then next thing I know, like there's some whispers going around, right? Hints was like somebody came over to Hints. I think it was Opasic came over to Hints and was like, and he's like, and start to like figure out what's going on. So basically, they took the car out, and I think they started doing donuts down like I don't know, somewhere in Roslyn Heights, and they hit uh, a pole of sorts, and it damaged the car. Obviously, the pole, I think the pole went down or something. I don't know. It was pretty bad, but it just kind of brings to light like nothing ended up happening.
Hmm.
Like I don't think anybody got suspended. Maybe they got like in school suspension. I'm really not even sure. But like it was like a slap on the wrist for Fitz, um, if anything at all. Like it
Yeah.
just kind of just shows you like how much like if this was nowadays, like he probably would have been fired.
Yeah.
Like and maybe jail time.
Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
knows? So that was a really good one that stands out just because it shows you how much like the relationship he had with us. Um,
Hmm.
and that was always such an important thing for the wrestlers, I feel like in particular growing up. But yeah.
I would say for me, it was this one time where we had practice on a Saturday, and I was a sophomore, and I didn't want to go to practice on Saturday morning. So my dad was like, "What time do you want me to get you up for practice on Saturday?" And I was like, "Oh, something happened and practice got canceled, so I don't have practice tomorrow." So he's like, "Okay," so he doesn't wake me up in the morning, and Fitz comes to my house at
Yeah,
like when do we have practice? 9 or 10. So
sure.
Fitz shows up like 15 minutes after practice started. My dad opens the door and he's like, he lied to me. He said that you didn't have practice today. And Fitz comes up into my bedroom
Yeah.
and starts shaking me awake. And I open my eyes and Fitz is in my bedroom and I'm like, ah, like so incredibly shocked to see him. But like in
Yeah.
hindsight, I'm like, I should have known that he was going to
Yeah,
come here.
yeah. You can't just be skipping out on practice with Fitz. That's such a cool thing. Like, I wish I could do that to some of my students at the gym.
Yeah.
Because I know they're lying to me sometimes.
And we all lived so close by that like he could just come get us and be back in like 10
Super
minutes.
accessible. Yeah.
Is there anything that you learned from wrestling or maybe you experienced in wrestling that you still take with you today, either in just your everyday life or in business ownership?
So I feel like the cliche thing would be to like, to grind like the grind of it. Like wrestling is so grueling and the season feels like I know it's a little shortened now. They shortened it up a bit. I remember because we had not to be like boomer,
Hmm.
but like I remember the season started before Thanksgiving. Um, like officially, which now I believe it starts after. But regardless, it just feels so long because you're cutting weight, and it's just daunting, right? But I think just like understanding, like when you work hard for something like truly like and I know this is again like almost like silly because like it should be obvious right? But to me, it didn't really kind of click until I think I went to J Rob Wrestling Camp,
Hmm.
another RIP.
Yeah.
They just canceled that, right? But because like Joel and I were always like super tough kids, but it wasn't until we went to that camp and we like busted our ass. I mean, like I know you know, but for your listeners, J Rob, most intensive wrestling camp in the US, like
Hmm.
I don't know how many years running
Yeah.
uh, for pretty much a month. And that's where like I made a huge jump and it showed me hard work pays off.
Hmm.
If you really bust your ass, if you really, put the time in, you will improve. And it doesn't have to be with athletics. It could be with anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was in July. So,
Yeah.
you're doing a month of practice with like crazy conditioning in July for
In
like,
Minnesota.
yeah, for like 45 days of competition in January and
Right.
December, right? So
Right.
it's like you really just have to keep, there's really no payoff for a good portion of
Right.
the year for
Yeah.
wrestling.
We come back and we're already playing. We're in soccer season. And we're like, well, I guess I can run
Hmm.
for a long period of time. But yeah, a lot of it. Yeah, it's a good point. Like a lot of it seemingly for the next few months seemed like a fever dream. Like what the hell just happened? I remember being on the bus, going from the dorms to the like the venue where we would practice, like the complex. I remember seeing like homeless people on the streets and just thinking like, man, I would trade places with this person for the next 20 days. And I'm not even kidding. Obviously, I know that's extreme and like,
Yeah.
but like that's how you felt because you were so miserable in
Hmm.
that month. I mean, it was horrible. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, I'm obviously very glad that I did it and I finished and I got the stupid t-shirt and
Yeah. 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 I remember there were some times where I was just like, either through wrestling or, something else where there was like a ton of work and just felt never ending. I'd be like, if I could just get hit by a car, I'd get 48 hours of just,
yeah,
just doing
yes,
nothing.
exactly. Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. That's exactly what it felt like. Like I just take a day here.
Yeah. So do you feel like you're doing that now with your business where you're just like working away without really seeing any immediate payoff?
So for the first, no, and there's a major difference. I feel like because for the first time in my life, my adult life, um, I was so this is kind of complicated, I guess. So I felt as an instructor in jiu-jitsu and like you're taking basically like your grind when you're just an instructor versus a gym owner. Life is extremely different.
Hmm.
I probably I would say the grind, it's just very different. I worked more instructing hours when I was just an instructor, right? Which kind of makes sense, right? Um, right. So when I was teaching at Royal, right, I was doing sometimes 13 privates a week, upwards of anywhere from I guess 12 to 15 classes a week. And then you think about like your own training time, right? So however many that was at the time, and maybe 6 sessions a week. So you're just, and this is all obviously hands on, right? This is your training, your teaching, you're doing your thing. So the grind back then was very different than the grind now. Like this, like being an owner, of a gym is very, very different. I'm obviously far more happy. But I would say to answer your question, I think I feel more in the first 6 months. I remember the first month, I was like, holy shit, like, did I bite off more than I can chew?
Yeah.
And luckily, I had a very good support system around me. My girlfriend at the time, ex-girlfriend now, family, just good people around me to help me out to get me through like that hump. But yeah, the first year I was doing so much teaching wise. and then also the back end stuff, lead calls, all that stuff, billing. And it's one of the harder things to manage because you're just wearing way too many hats. Now, obviously, the money was still coming in, so it felt nice. Like there was, something to be like, wow, okay, like this is actually working. But it doesn't mean you're not running yourself down. And I remember I had a conversation with one of my students, and I was like, I don't understand why I'm not like happy to be doing what I'm doing right
Mhm.
now. And I just realized I was doing way too much in terms of the instructor I was teaching, like 19, I think it was 19 or 20 classes a week. And it was funny, like on Tuesday, Thursdays, I was doing 6, 7, and then 8:30, all back to back. And by the 8:30 class, I remember I felt bad for the students because I was just like phoning in. And mind you, like there was other classes throughout the day on those days as well, just not, back to back, right? So we had like the noon class, we had a kids class. So it was so much. And again, not that it was all for nothing type thing. It was just, I was, I was just, again, wearing way too many hats, trying to do too much. But after the first year, I started to find, a little bit of help with instructing, a little bit of help with the front desk, and all the pieces started to fall, into place. And that was probably the hardest thing I think I had to do in terms of manage.
Mhm.
Was yeah, find that help.
How did you decide to pick up jujitsu initially? Like, was it just natural to when you stopped wrestling to start doing jujitsu?
So not quite. It's actually kind of a cool story. So I was actually a member at Lifetime when they first opened in Long Island. It was the cheapest membership they had ever offered. Actually, it was like $99. Me and Joel got like a family deal. And we were lifting, and one day they had a section, like an MMA section or like a gym section, mats, in the space, and they offer jujitsu once a week. So, we were like, oh, this looks cool. Like, MMA was starting to like, make a name for itself. UFC was getting big, so I was always kind of curious. And I figured why not? It was a free option for us at the
Hmm.
time. So I ended up taking the class, and I hit it off with the guy. His name's Jason Gershon. I actually still talk to him this day. He's a Sarah BJJ black belt. And yeah, for like a year, I would go in and we would, do our thing, and maybe even longer than I'm honestly not even sure. But yeah, like I just kind of took to it.
Hmm.
And he at a certain point he was just like, dude, you got to go sign up at a proper gym. And I had walked into Sarah BJJ, and that was pretty much it. The rest is history. And it just kind of like took over my life
Yeah.
after that. Yeah.
And was that a natural progression, just like you're there so much training that you just started working there as well?
Yeah, so that's a good story too. So I loved jujitsu and I loved what I was doing. I was also working for my family at the time at the restaurant, which initially I enjoyed, and then as times changed, and I started to not really enjoy my time so much there. And I knew I wanted to do something else. I just didn't know what that would be. So I had this idea to run a jiu-jitsu tournament, kind of like a dual meet wrestling tournament would be run, right? Where like, two teams, you have weight classes, no, 3 points for a decision win,
Hmm.
6 or 5 for a submission win. It was this whole thing. And at the time, social media wasn't nearly what it is today, where like you can just post stuff and people will like learn about it. I had to go like door to door. So I started putting together all this stuff. I actually got the mats, the hookup for mats from Fitz,
Okay.
funnily enough. Yeah. I got the venue locked down. I went door to door to all the jujitsu gyms pretty much on Long Island, which was, I would say, probably around like at the time, it was probably around like 20-ish to 30 maybe, to literally explain them this situation. and what it was all about. And I really busted my ass. And I was super excited for this because it was a different style. It was a way to build camaraderie around not just like your teammates, but like the outsiders, like to build, to cheer for a team, not just a person. And that was the idea. It ended up not coming to fruition. And when that happened, it kind of fucked me up. I was really like upset, and I didn't know because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew it. I didn't want to be in the restaurant. I loved jiu-jitsu and I really wanted to make a livelihood out of it. And I remember talking to a buddy of mine, Sean, and we were going on a trip to Greece, him and I and a few of our friends. And I asked him like afterwards, would you want to go on a follow-up thing, like real quick? We can go on like it's like a 5-day excursion trip. And they do jujitsu, and
Mm-hmm.
he said he's like funds are going to be tight. We were younger at the time, and he's like funds are going to be tight, and like what do you think about like Southeast Asia? So that kind of just snowballed into this like 9-month trip for me. I ended up training at Bali MMA for like about 9 months. And when I came back from that trip, I pretty much took on jujitsu full time. I was training in Manhattan at Henzo's, in Midtown, and I ended up telling Jason, I was like, hey man, like I want to do this. Like, is there space for me? Jason Rao, my coach,
Mm-hmm.
is there space anywhere at the gym that I can work? And he was like, oh yeah, we actually, I think we need a new front desk guy. So I became the front desk manager, whatever you want to call it, at the Sarah BJ in Levittown, and started to learn the business from there.
Has it been 2 years yet of you owning your own gym?
Yeah, it's actually November will be 3.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And what was it like making that jump from being just an instructor to now being your own business owner? I imagine like leasing a space and building it out has to be, it's a big task to take on.
So I actually really enjoy telling a story because and I'm really glad that you asked me to do this because I enjoy telling the story because it's not the typical answer. I feel like so many people when they tell this type of story, like starting their own business, there's a level of nervousness and being scared. When I made the decision to open my own school, I was fully confident that it would be successful. I was not nervous. There was frustrating parts about it just because like you're dealing with, looking for a space, you're dealing with leasing a space, you're dealing with lawyers, all this stuff that's foreign to you.
Mhm.
I was never nervous that the business wouldn't be successful. And I think for a jujitsu school owner, that's probably always like the scariest part. You're like,
Yeah.
am I going to have the students to pay rent? Am I going to, all that type of stuff happened before I made the decision. And the reason why I like telling the story is because I like to give people that are in similar situations a little bit of clarity, and essentially saying that you can do it,
Mhm.
because I was in a spot where I felt that I couldn't do it without the assistance of somebody who in the space like was a big name in the jiu-jitsu space. Where I was at, the owner of the gym had approached me and his right hand man to he wanted to open another space, the three of us. And I was like all for it. At the time I was like, this is fantastic. I'll finally be a gym owner and, this and that. And it didn't end up working out. There was a lot of stuff going on behind closed doors with that gym. And it ended up not working out. The gym, we put that on the back burner. And I had a student from the gym, one of my private clients, who I really enjoyed my time with. I felt like he helped me a lot with like, finance stuff. And then I obviously was giving him jujitsu privates, and he wanted to back me for a gym. And I he wanted to open a gym around me, and I told him, I was like, I don't really know if I can do it, you
Right.
know. And I remember him saying something, and it stuck with me, to this day. And I remember saying, "Hey, listen, like, I really appreciate you believing in me, but what if what if I'm not successful? Like, what if I don't get the students? Like, what if, this and that? What if?" And he goes, "Or what if it's more successful than you could have ever imagined?"
Mm.
And I remember like seeing that, and I was like, damn, like, yeah, maybe, but still didn't quite believe it. Then fast forward, like, I would say maybe not even like 3 months later, I ended up getting fired from that gym, for reasons I won't go into today. Some of the people who end up watching this might already know the story,
Yeah, yeah.
but it was the perfect example of, you don't realize you're super content, right? But not doing great. Like, I was doing okay at that gym. I was never going to be doing great there, though. Like, the
Mm.
ceiling was very low. And I was pretty much at the ceiling. Like, if I did any more, I would collapse due to
Right.
exhaustion. So it was like, yeah, again, it was like one of those things, like, I had to be pushed into failure to succeed at a level like so much higher than I could have ever imagined, right? In terms of what I am, at least in my realm of life with jujitsu. Um, and it was such a blessing in disguise.
Mm.
Again, I think it was 24 hours, is actually really shitty timing, but had gotten fired on Monday, and then on Tuesday was my anniversary, with my girlfriend, and it obviously made the day terrible.
Mm.
We went on a hike, and there was just like this one moment of clarity at it. We both, like, we got to, like, there's this beach, Comset Park. So we walked on the trail, and there's this beach, and there's this big rock, and we both laid on it, and we kind of just, like, I almost like dozed off for a minute, and it was almost like pure bliss. And it shook off all, like, I felt like I woke up, or I came to. It was like a 20-minute thing. I came to, and I was like, I feel so much better. And then from that moment on, I started talking to my coach, Jason, and a few others of my friends who have since opened gyms themselves. And it had been nothing but support, in the sense of, go open your own gym. You can do it. You don't need him, them, anybody. You can do it. And um, once I made the decision, I was nothing but confident. I remember even, like, going into the lease, like, there were a couple, like, lease stipulations, for, like, if you default on payment or things like that. And the my lawyer and or my broker was like, very like, these are, you don't want this stuff. And I was like, I don't really care about that.
Mm.
Like, this will work. Like, like, so it was a very reassuring feeling, like, getting going. I never felt nervous once. It was always the everything before I made the decision. Once I made the decision, I was good to go, and I felt great. And it's been good. I mean, I'm very, very lucky. I'm very happy. We have a great space, a great community of people, and it's been fantastic ever since.
And I like that you were saying that about, what happens if it goes way better than you could ever expect, right? Because I've heard a lot of people talk about that, and it's like, well, while we're thinking about what could happen, instead of thinking about the worst case scenario, why don't we think about what could possibly go right, right? What if
Yeah,
everything goes right? What if it works out better than you could have ever dreamed of, right? Why not
right.
think about those things too? And I think that's something that I learned from wrestling as well, where whenever I had doubt about the outcome of the match that I was about to wrestle, I wrestled the worst, right?
Yep.
Whenever I went in and I just was like, I'm going to destroy this kid, and I didn't care about their accolades or their previous match or whatever, I wrestled my best, right? Like totally loose. I remember one time I wouldn't say I was overconfident, but I was like too stupid to know who I was wrestling. And like I got my butt kicked. I was losing by like 10 points and I just like, did what every coach tells you not to do. I reached behind me, grabbed the kid's head and I threw a headlock and I pinned him. And I come off the mat and Fitz is like giving me these like crazy eyes and I'm like, "What?" He's like, I can't believe you did that. He's like, that kid was all county last year. So it's like, and I think about that now when I go into court, right? I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
not worried about the fact that the other attorney is 60 years old, been doing this for 30 years. I'm like, I know my file. I'm going to go in. I did my preparation. I'm just going to go in and kick butt. And I know I'm
Preparation.
going
Preparation is it's all anxiety comes from lack of preparation, right?
to win.
Like it is such an important thing. Yeah, whether you're in the courtroom or on the mats or whatever, your field is, I think preparation really is like it's such an important thing. And I think as we get older, we kind of realize hopefully, kids, I think kids are actually starting to do a much better job at this because I don't know if they're not drinking as much. They're becoming like more one sport athletes. So they're
Hmm.
focused on whether that's soccer, wrestling, football, whatever it is. Kids are way more focused. So hopefully they're learning it way earlier than we did. I mean, I know me, I partied, all the way into like my mid to late 20s. Even when I turned 30, I was in Bali. So I was still in Southeast Asia. So I was partying all the way up until I was 30. These kids aren't really getting into all that so much. They seem a little bit more focused, which is definitely a good thing. Um, but the preparation really speaks so much to it. But like I like the what if thing is funny. So I have a OCD, right? And so much of like my issues. It's not like cleanliness OCD. If you saw my place right now, it's like yeah, I just moved though. So, but it's more like intrusive thoughts. Like, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? And one of the things is you're supposed to say, well, even if right, even if this happens, you are dot 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 right. As long as you're prepared, you don't really have to like worry about these types of things. And that's just that saying alone actually has helped a ton.
Mm.
Yeah.
And how did you attract your students, your clients to come to the gym? Because I imagine you need like, I don't know, hundreds of monthly memberships in order to keep the place running, right?
Yeah, sure. So a lot of that was as marketing. Yeah, something that like is relatively new within like the last like 5 years, I would say. Like social media marketing has been huge.
Mm.
Um, so a lot of it. So when we first opened, I had a bunch of people from the old gym that I had left come over. I had people from the gym that I was training at, Sarah Jiu Jitsu. I had a few of those guys come over, and that was fantastic to have them trust me with their Jiu Jitsu. But yeah, dude, a lot of it is just your the marketing portion of it and I didn't really know much about it then. Hell, I don't really know much about it now, but I try to learn as much as I can as we go through because it is very complicated. And the meta seems to always be changing. Um,
Hmm.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with the social media ads and all that, the platform and everything, but um, that is a massive help. And I feel like, I mean, I definitely wouldn't be at where I am now without that. That's for damn sure. Yeah.
Is that something that you learned to do yourself, or are you hiring somebody to help you with
So
that?
I hired somebody as we go along because I felt like initially I was like, okay, I can do this, right? And then you start to realize like, well, now this is just one more task that you're going to have to take on, and it is a lot. It's a lot, especially when you're trying to learn it while doing it. Like it's not like, oh, you don't have to hire a cleaning lady because you're gonna clean, and no, like like this is something you don't know how to do yet. So now you have to learn on top of
Mm.
doing it and then on top of everything else. So it becomes like a frustrating thing. And I think that when you become a business owner, you have to learn to delegate responsibility just as much as you have to understand how to work hard, you also have to have your own peace of mind and be like, okay, no, this is his space. He's going to get paid to do it.
Right.
And yeah, again, I try to learn and understand as much as I can through that, but not enough where I would feel comfortable, just saying, okay, you know what, you've had your time. I'm going to take over. No.
Mhm. I did that with like editing the reels and stuff. Like I thought that
Yeah,
I could learn how to turn
it's
the
hard.
podcast into reels. I spent like 10 minutes. It looked horrible and I was like, I gotta find somebody to do this. I can't, I
Yeah,
can't. It's not
because
worth
you're going to drive
the
yourself
time.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll end up being able to do it, but at what cost?
Hmm.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
there anything particular that like sticks out in your mind that was especially challenging or surprising about business ownership for you?
Um, the managing of your time and finding the help. Now finding the help I knew about from the restaurant, right? Because we would go through kids at the pizzeria. I mean, like nothing. Those
Mm,
kids would be in and out. But jiu-jitsu I felt was like different, right? It's a specialty. So I thought like we would have a little bit more stability. Now, every instructor that we brought in honestly has been great, but it's getting them in was the hard part. Finding the help was the hard part. And now I feel like I'm so blessed. I have such a good team, around, but I think that was probably the hardest part. And I
mm,
think a lot of gym owners would say the same thing is finding the instructors so you yourself can take a step back and be able to like just have a breather and not like everybody like there's like a theme in jiu-jitsu where you sleep on the mats, like no, like that's not what you want. Like that is not comfortable. It's not fun. It makes you hate what you're doing. And if you don't get the rest or the time, like I just recently, I think over the last, I don't know what it was, I didn't have a day off.
mm.
Now some days obviously are, Sundays just open mat from 10 to 12. But 10 to 12, you get there at 9:30, you leave realistically around 1 to clean. Right next thing, it's a 5-hour day.
Yeah.
And even if it was a 1-hour day, it's still you're there.
Hmm.
And you don't, your mind, your body doesn't get a chance to just have a reset. So I just recently got Fridays off. And so that's my day off now is today, Fridays. And it
And you're
just
still
helps.
working.
Yeah. I'm still working. Yeah, I still make calls and stuff, but like as long as I don't mind doing like the clerical stuff. As long as I'm not physically there, it's fine. It's fine. I still get people ask me like to do privates and stuff on Fridays, and I'm like, no,
Mhm.
sorry, it's not happening. Yeah.
Do you have any memories that stick out in your time either competing or coaching that is something because I feel like with a combat sport there's some things that happen that just like stick with you for a long time.
Yeah. Generally speaking, I feel like at least with wrestling, and I guess with jiu-jitsu as well. But wrestling, I feel like the losses always kind of linger, you know? Like obviously the wins are super exciting and you're always, you're whether you won a tournament or a big match against a big name or whatever it is. Um, that's always exciting. I feel like it's always maybe the matches you should have won that you lost, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah, I always remember I was up 12-0 at the Wheatley tournament, no less. And I ended up getting stuck in like the third period and I'm throwing my headgear and I'm fucking pissed off. And, I never had a good run at the Wheatley tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah, even my senior year, I'm in the finals, and I was up. I think I was up like 4-0 or something, and then the guy just does a stupid fucking move, literally kind of just like hopped over me, and I ended up getting stuck. So that stuff always sticks out. In jiu-jitsu, it was a little bit different because I was like an adult when I started competing in jiu-jitsu. And I feel like I approached it very, very different. And I definitely had more like blind confidence when I was a kid, right? Versus being an adult in jujitsu, where like you think everything is bigger than it actually is, right? Like realistically, unless you're being paid to do it, which so few people are in jujitsu, like nothing fucking matters.
Mhm.
And what I try to tell the students is like, no matter you win or lose this tournament, this match, whatever it is, it will not change the outcome of tomorrow,
Mhm.
right? Like you're still going to go to school, you're still going to go to work, you're going to do all the same things whether you win or lose. So why are we putting such an emphasis on the result?
Right.
Um, and I wish I could have told myself that a little bit back then, and then even now, I mean, I don't compete anymore in jiu-jitsu, but it's a lot of because the OCD thing is new. So it's a lot of OCD like coping mechanisms and things like that that actually have helped me, professionally and even in just my day to day.
Yeah.
And yeah, like that type of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. You would have never listened to that advice to not worry about the result.
Nah, nah, nah.
And
Put put as much pressure on yourself as possible. See
yeah.
how it goes.
And it's with combat sports and with wrestling and the tournament style of wrestling where your postseason is your series of tournaments where if you're in high school, it's the state championships. If you're in college, it's the NCAA championships. It's everybody who competes ends with a heartbreaking result, except for the one guy in the weight class who wins the ultimate tournament, right? So
Right.
I think you learn a lot about not getting what you want and then, how you deal with that, right? What are you going to do in the off season? What are you going to do to, enhance your results for the next season? And I think that's something you can also translate into your job, your business, or whatever it is, after you're done competing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as long as you like take the L and understand why you lost and not just, you know, do the same thing. That's like one of the things I will say about jujitsu that's very, very different than wrestling. Um, at least in the high school level, obviously college, it gets way more serious. And, you have to, there's a different level of competition, but in jujitsu, because a lot of the guys in jujitsu don't compete. But the goal is still the same. Like your goal is to get as good as you possibly can get. And there's so many techniques to learn and all that stuff. And yeah, it's great. But if you're just going in to jiu-jitsu and every day and you're just trying to win each round, then and yeah, maybe you'll get better, but the incline will be a lot slower, right? Versus if you go in and you have like a purpose in your drilling, if you have a purpose in your rounds, say I really want to work on this for the next, week, month, whatever it is, you start to learn, but you start to learn more about the positions. You start to learn more about yourself and how you learn what helps you the most, whether it's live rounds, whether it's drilling, whether it's positional training. Yeah. And I think like in wrestling, I mean, I feel like because we're young, you're so young, it's like you're just beating the shit out of each other and you're grinding. You're also cutting weight, so you're miserable. It makes everything like that much tougher.
Yeah. But I do feel like I've brought that into my adulthood and my career now, where it's like I look back at the end of the year and all the things that I did, and I'm like, all right, next year, how do we do something more sophisticated? How do we do something more challenging? How do we learn to do something better than how we did it this year, right? And
Yeah,
I think that is from the wrestling season.
for sure. You just learn how to grind.
Hmm.
Yeah, you learn how to push through. Yeah, that's 100%. I mean, they always say is that wrestling is the hardest. Wrestling is going to be the hardest thing you're gonna ever have to do, right? Yeah, I mean, like it really is. Like I had a conversation with my friends. There was like a poll that came out or a statistic that came out that was like they were naming the hardest sports. I forget what the actual one, two, three were, but wrestling was like atop the list. And they were like, well, why is wrestling at the top? And I was like, explaining to them, I was like, look, yes, we're all in our 30s, right? At this point. Uh, and I'm like, every one of you could be good at jujitsu if today if you dedicated say 3 to 4 days a week, all of you could be pretty good at jujitsu, relatively good at jujitsu, in say 3 to 5 years, relatively speaking. I said, not one of you could be good at wrestling. None of you, like none of you would be able to do it. Like
Yeah.
it's just too physically demanding. It's too hard. Yeah, it's just wrestling is just so hard. And yeah, when you really do it, for however many years, 4, 8, 12 years, but kids now are starting at 5. So yeah, I do. Yeah, the kids that are starting super young now, it's crazy. Like seeing really cool things. That was kind of what I was talking about the single sport athletes now. They're really like getting into it super young and then they're doing it all year round. It's
Yeah.
nuts. It's fucking nuts. Yeah.
Why do you think that people should do jujitsu, and more particularly, why do you think they should join your jujitsu gym?
So I think jujitsu is good for anybody and everybody. Doesn't matter age, weight, sex. I think it could be good for you physically. It's definitely good for you mentally. Um, there's so many reasons. The number one, the one that I really always kind of draw back to, and this kind of actually goes back to like a sales pitch. This is actually, I feel like why I'm very good at what I do when I talk to potential students, is because I truly believe in what I'm saying, right? I believe that jujitsu will better your life. Like no question. Um, Jiu-jitsu, unlike pretty much any other workout, right? Whether it's lifting weights, running, biking, roll it, does it, whatever you want. None of those things stimulate the mind like jujitsu does, right? So you are a 175-pound guy, you walk into the room and you're getting your back taken by a girl who's 120 pounds soaking wet and she's choking you out. That's not a physicality thing, right? She's not stronger than you. She's not, maybe she's faster than you. I don't know. But that's a puzzle, right? And humans are inquisitive by nature. We need to figure out things. That's why jujitsu becomes so addictive, is because the mind is so enthralled with this puzzle that's in front of them, and we have to figure it out. At our space, I feel like we have such a good community of people. Um, Jiu-jitsu gyms, martial arts gyms in general, jiu-jitsu gyms can be very clicky. Now we're still new, so like, uh, I guess we haven't had the time to get clicky, but I feel like I myself and then the other instructors and the students who are upper belts do a pretty good job at being very inclusive with lower belts. And that's the part where like, if you, I know you've been into a jujitsu, you've trained before, so you know the deal. Like it's kind of awkward walking up to a black belt or a brown belt who's just competed and just shooting the shit. Like I feel like that's not the case with our space. Everybody's very, very friendly, and we try to keep it as it was with a community. Like we try to do things together, and it becomes a place that, again, it should be a place where you go and you don't have to think about everything on the outside. And I think that when you walk in, you should feel comfortable and excited, right? You should. I remember going to the gym and just being like, fuck, like I don't want to be here right now, right? And you just sit in your car for like 20
Yeah,
minutes.
yeah.
You should never feel that with jujitsu.
Mhm.
You should always be excited to learn and do the next thing and the next technique or whatever it is. If you're up for a promotion, maybe stripes, belts, who knows? But I think we have a very, very good community of people at
Mhm.
Monarch.
And if somebody wants to join your gym, how do they do that?
Hit us up on Instagram. You guys can call the number, monarchjujitsuacademy.com. Check us out. You can book the trial on there. Kids from 5 years old all the way to, our oldest student is, I think, 68. So we take them all.
All right, very good. It was nice speaking with you today, Nick, and enjoy your day off.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. Wills, thank you so much for having me on. This was a lot of fun, dude. Yeah, again, thanks for having me on and having this platform. This is super cool, and it's always cool to see friends from the past, having success as an adult. It's one of the things that I love to see.